welcome back to the NBA Nightcap. I'm your host here, Nick. I got my guys, Lucas and Dave. Yeah, that works. Oh my god, good. We got a great episode coming up. It finally happened. What we've been talking about for months. The James Harden trade went to the location that I always knew it was going to, Brooklyn Nets. But before we get into it, it's the Nightcap. I'm drinking Blue Moon Light Sky.
Oh,
It's a citrus wheat, low on calories, low on carbs. It was in my fridge. What are you guys
it's
drinking?
good.
Look for that girly figure.
Hey, can't be this skinny without some, light carbs.
I just went to the store and got Founders IPA, the Moon Rambler.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I don't think I've had this before. It's an Indian Pale Ale with milk sugar.
Okay.
Ew.
I don't know. It's
That
good.
does not sound good.
It's
Milk sugar.
It's probably like 8%.
It's delicious. It's 6.5.
Oh,
Six and a half.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
What you got going on, Dave?
Some blackberry whiskey and Coke.
Oh my god. One day, viewers, we're going to get Dave on just straight whiskey. It's going to be a good day. It'll be blackberry whiskey, but it'll be a good day. Nah, I just, you know what? Cheers. Cheers to our drinks, Cheers. Okay, whatever. Screw you guys. Just trying to do something cool there. Fine,
Cheers.
we'll get into it. Click my button. James Harden trade. It happened. I'll lay out the details, and then I'll pass the torch over to you guys. James Harden's going to the Brooklyn Nets. We got the Cleveland Cavaliers getting Jarrett Allen, Taurean Prince. Somehow they snaked that. Indiana Pacers are getting Caris LeVert, a 2023 second-round draft pick from Houston. And the Rockets getting Victor Oladipo, Kurucs, Dante Exum,
Right.
4 first-round draft picks, and 4 first-round draft pick swaps. And some of those swaps get crazy where it's like the Thunder actually are in charge of 4 teams picks. So they just kind of like somehow Sam Presti came out on top here.
He always does.
He always
snags something.
So the league finally kicked the super team, and it's back. We had a good 18 months without a super team, and we're back. We knew it was coming.
Yep.
We knew it was coming. Kyrie's been at his sister's birthday party crying. Player empowerment. Let's go. I'm going to start. I'm not passing it off. I lied. I'm intrigued. We talked about this earlier. Heated debate. I'm intrigued by James Harden, Kyrie, and Durant. The offense could just be outstanding. But
You know what would be bad? The defense.
But if you can score 160 points and the other team can only score 140, you're kind of set. I love my favorite part of the trade, though, is the Oladipo Caris LeVert switch. Because I think the Rockets are now the, no one believes in us team. Or, the redemption story.
But completely. They're the complete redemption arc team.
Lucas, take it over. I see you looking down at your phone trying to get some quick stats up.
I just have to have everything prepared. No, I mean, this is kind of... This just seems... It's, just silly, right? I have the same feeling that I had when, the Heatles were together. Or when the year before the 73 win Warriors happened. It just feels like it's over. The league's over. There's no competition coming out of the East. It's just going to end up being Lakers, Nets all over again. I mean, I Paul George is doing fine, but I don't see the Clippers doing enough at all to knock off the Lakers. So you're just going to have another scenario where we already know who the finals matchup is going to be. And I mean, the league's just going to keep getting pushed down the line. But we know in the midsummer when the finals happen, we already know what's going to happen 6-7 months from now. It just kind of sucks. And I don't even think the ripples of Kyrie having some sort of drama. I honestly think if Kyrie just sat out the rest of the season, they're fine. You have 2 MVPs Harden is still in his prime, even though he's a little chonker. But Durant looks like he didn't miss a step. Like the only time that he ever looked like a little shaky was the second quarter of his first game. Like that was he went like 1 for 5, and after that he's been freaking perfect. Like I don't know what else to say. He's the perfect basketball player. I don't know. I don't know how like you have the perfect basketball player and then you have an MVP in their prime. They're playing together. It's like when it doesn't hurt as much as when Durant joined the Warriors, but it has that kind of same appeal to it where it's as long as they're healthy, like it's kind of over. Sucks.
I think it hurts more for me because it's just like it's another player who just gets what he wants. And I feel like the Durant thing, everything had to break perfect for that. Like the cap had to go up, everything else. I feel like with the Nets, it's just, all right, I don't want to be here anymore in Houston. I'm gonna force my way out to the Nets. And that's why it hurts more, I feel. Because I feel like any player could do that really.
I just think that like the haul that the Rockets got, it's just like it's a little easier than when like Durant just hopped over from OKC to Golden State. Just eases it a little bit, and like that was just like that one was like we know what this finals is. This one,
I'm
it's just still
I'm
little question marks on this Brooklyn team.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I feel like Lucas is very much like, all right, they're going to just rule the entire league. I'm very I'm not 100% bought in yet on it because Kyrie is just MIA. It's going to be weeks before he plays. And then not only that, when he comes back to play, I have I think the Nets would be better if they traded Kyrie in that package and were able to keep like a Jarrett Allen or something because I I don't think that Kyrie fits as well as if it was Harden and Durant and then role players.
I don't know what you do with Kyrie. He on purpose tanked his value. So he's really set himself up to just ride out this contract, this massive, huge contract. And it doesn't look like the league's ever going to punish him. The Nets aren't going to punish him because if you entertain the idea as the league to punish him, you basically just knock down everything you've built up with the player empowerment movement. His trade value will still be down. I mean, the only real punishment would be
not paying him.
I don't even know. Like, there's no punishment or there's no next step where the Nets can recoup what will be lost. So if like the league suspends Kyrie, well, he's still on the books for the Nets, right? All right, he's not on the books on the Nets anymore. Well, the Nets are hard capped. So it's like now they can't do anything to go over the cap. So they're screwed there unless they make another pretty trade. But now they don't have any assets to do a crazy trade. If you suspend and void the contract, now Kyrie's out of the league, and all he has to do is like wait until his suspension's over, and then he can come back and join any team he wants. Like I don't really know what timeline hurts Kyrie, but can be like, all right, we're going to I don't know bolster up the Nets because they just lost Kyrie, or do they even deserve any compensation? I don't really know, but it just sucks, and this is all Kyrie's fault.
I mean, I think the other thing is we're being really hard on this. Like, I mean, it should be. Like, he just left because of everything that happened at the Capitol. But who's to not say that, like, I mean, Kyrie could just have, like, mental issues where he's, like, bipolar. He's going through, like, a rut right now. And then in 2 weeks, when the season's back and he's, like, playing with Harden and he's playing with Durant, he's like, oh, this is so much fun. Like, I get all these shots. Like, I'm open all the time. Like, this is fun for me now for who knows how long, but that could be the same scenario where he's like, all right, you know what? Or even if they play off and they're like, yeah, Kyrie, you're the alpha here, buddy. We'll give you your 20 a game. Don't worry.
I don't know if I buy it. I mean, I know mental health has been like a huge thing. It's been a huge thing with DeRozan and Kevin Love, but their mental health issues were different. But this is just Antonio Brown. Like, you felt the same argument was said during Antonio Brown. He's having a meltdown. He's bipolar. He's freaking out. He's Kanye. Kanye's freaking out.
He had the big thing with Antonio Brown was that he has, I cannot remember what it's called. It's football players get it because they keep getting hit in the head.
CT.
Yeah, CT.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like.
But I don't know. He's not a good dude to root for, right? No. So he's not a dude. Let's say he does have some sort of really mental illness, right? He's not doing anything, or he doesn't have a support group. He hasn't put himself around anybody to succeed. But at some point, it's not even like you can feel bad for him, but that doesn't excuse what's happening, and you can't like remove the repercussions of someone's actions just because of that sort of mental health situation, right? Like, what do you do? Like, he's making $40 million. He's having a couple bad weeks. Like, you have to, then you remove the 40 million and you help him. But he can't be making the 40 million and doing bad things and not helping. You can't have it all.
I don't agree with it. Yeah. It's just a weird situation for him, for this entire thing. Like, that would be the positive side, is he comes back from this and he starts playing again. But other than that, like, that's the wild card like we talked about earlier. It's just the kind of,
he's on track to be the next Stephon Marbury. I mean, would either of you guys be surprised if in 4 years he's in China playing?
I would be surprised if he was in China. I wouldn't be surprised if he was gone though. Like, he retired and he just traveled, right? Like, that's how I see his thing. Like, he takes his money and he travels and he does these, I don't know, expansive things all around the world.
I mean, he's like, all the stories that have come out are very similar to the Stephon Marbury stuff. And I feel like if this doesn't go well with him and Durant, because the whole thing was that him and Durant were best buddies.
Right.
And I saw an article today that the relationship between Durant and Kyrie has gotten much worse.
Well, it has to, right? It has to be worse. Kyrie is...
I mean, how can you go and be, like, in Kevin Durant's shoes, you're coming off a torn Achilles, and, like, all you want to do is just play basketball and prove that you're one of the best scorers ever. And then the teammate that was supposed to go and be there with you and build this whole team and this whole culture, it's just like, nah, I'm good. Peace out.
It's definitely not what you want from your number 2 guy that you sign up with. But I mean, this is the thing with these guys hopping teams. It's the same thing with the Paul George Kawhi thing. Is like, they're like, oh, this is going to be so great. Like, this is awesome. Most of the time, you work better with someone you may not really like that much. Or you kind of just, like, hang out with. You're not, like, best buddies with, because you just have that working relationship. You know what you need to get done. Where these guys are, like, in the tunnel, being like, they got 2 max slots. Let's go there. Be you and me. And, like, the world's different than when they made this plan. But it's just crazy to me. Like, I agree with everything you guys are saying. Like, I don't see him being in the league for 4 more years. Or if he is, he's going to be like, yeah, I'll play like 60 games. Like, that's what I'm signing up for. I cannot play games when I want. We'll be like but who's going to sign up that contract? Like, Boston was right.
Because he's going to want a lot of money.
But someone's going to pay him. Like, in Orlando would be like, if we can get Kyrie for 40 games, like, that's enough tickets sold. Like, that's at one point.
You almost would find a team. Yeah, you could totally find like a random scenario though. Like, okay, ignore that Boston had Kyrie before, but a situation like that where you just have quality up and coming guys that you haven't paid yet, right? And then instantly you're like, all right, we got this hothead. He's only going to play 40 games and the playoffs. That's it. A team like that would pull the trigger on Kyrie, and that would suck because it just enables him. It enables him to miss games. It sucks.
Look at the Celtics, though, when Kyrie wasn't there. They played about 10,000 times better than when Kyrie was there.
Well, I mean, but also Brown and Tatum. Well, so this is what I was saying, was like, you needed to find a squad like now that can hold their own, and just need that one dude who can potentially be like a top 15 player any given night.
Yeah.
I don't know. It would be a really hard scenario to find. It'd be really niche, but yeah, I don't know. Any scenario in which Kyrie like stays unpunished is just not good for the league. But there's no scenario in which this ends well.
No, I don't think Adam Silver has it in him to punish him.
No.
If it was David Stern, oh boy.
Yeah.
But I don't think Adam Silver has it in him to punish him and it's kind of hard too because he has this whole narrative of how like the player has all the power and like all this stuff that Adam Silver has pretty much went and like enabled the players, I feel. I mean, and then how hypocritical would it be if he just turned around and was like, nope.
Yeah.
So I don't see him doing anything.
I mean, definitely.
It's the same thing with Harden.
Well, they definitely came off too soft to start off this season. We talked about this before, where they weren't punishing anyone, and they kind of hunkered down, and now they're going like straight up like, you're not going to go out and do anything. You're in the hotel room, and that's why some of these games are weird because these guys aren't. They're it sucks. Every person in America has been affected by this, but
yeah,
you're not living your normal life. So,
yep.
But you know what? I'm sick of the Kyrie talk. The guy, we could see this great team, but there's many other pieces to this trade than Kyrie. We got it out, vented it out.
Well, the most important part of the trade is that Mom made pizza rolls.
They're back together.
The meme is back together. I saw photoshopped of Durant in the Nets jersey and Harden in the Nets jerseys leaning back and screaming.
The pizza rolls.
Mom made pizza rolls. Just the best.
So now, is this going to be Harden's next teammate he demises? Are they both going to be the demise of Harden? Because it's not Harden's team anymore. This is Durant's team, whether Kyrie wants to believe. But it's Durant's team. And how do you, Lucas, how do you think Harden's going to fit in? Is he going to be the leader of the, like, is he going to be the kind of the point guard of this team, kind of orchestrating this offense? Or is he kind of like, hey, you're going to get your ISO ball? Or are they just going to go ISO ball?
So I don't think it's always going to be ISO ball, even though it will definitely result to quite a bit of ISO ball. I think this really, what you're going to see is what Harden's been wanting for a long time. And I think it even dates back to, I think it was like 3 years ago. I just remember the clip at the All-Star game where Mike Budenholzer and Steph Curry were at half court talking, and they were talking about Harden because Harden had just talked to Mike, and they were talking about how like Harden is done with this system. He wants to play a beautiful brand of basketball. So he wanted to play how the Bucks were playing, how it was. Mike has there's 6 spots on the court, and that's where every single shooter needs to be. If you're lost, you need to get to that spot. That's it. You're going to have Giannis. You're going to have the facilitator doing pick and rolls, driving, cutting. If you're a shooter or you feel like you're lost in the offense, you have to get to that spot. You got to move. You got to roll off the screen. I think Harden is dying to play on a team that isn't him just being ISO, because I think he's at the point in his career where he's seeing other players like Lillard, CJ McCollum, all these other shooters like Curry his entire career getting easy freaking shots off these coming off all these screens. And that's just what he's begging for. So if you're ever going to do a pick and roll with anyone, and you can do a pick and roll with Kevin Durant and James Harden, I don't really know. I don't know how you stop it. You're going to score on every possession. Someone's going to foul you, or you're going to hit a 3, going to get a layup. It's just, it's done. It's over. But to pose a different question, Kevin Durant has played with an MVP on his team 12 out of the 13 seasons he's been in the league. Is there any way you can look at Kevin Durant's career and take a step back and say, okay, I'm not going to put him on the same pedestal as like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with scoring? Like when I think of Kareem, I'm like, all right, he's the old school guy. There wasn't a ton of parity in the league. Lakers were cruising, Celtics were cruising, right? So they gobbled up a lot of wins, a lot of championships. He's the greatest scorer of all time. Durant is right there as going to be at least number 2 as the greatest scorer of all time. But is there a caveat being like he couldn't do it with basically one MVP, or actually it ended up being 2 MVPs on that original OKC team. So he's never played in a scenario in which he hasn't had top 10 talent in the league at all times.
I'm going to flip this on you. Would he have scored more if they had traded Westbrook instead of Harden?
I don't think so.
Really?
Take
oh,
like
yeah.
40 shots that Westbrook would take a game that were
super... But that's not what Kevin Durant does. Like last night against the Knicks, I'm not going to say anything else. He was the only person out there. I text Nick, I was like, Knicks +3. Like, the only person there is Kevin Durant. And Nick's like, it's Kevin Durant. Yeah, and I'm looking at the box score. I'm like, all right, Kevin Durant just slaughtered the Knicks, but I'm pretty sure he only took 25 shots.
Yeah.
He's a former MVP, greatest scorer in the league, greatest scorer we've ever seen, and yet he only shoots 25 a game. And that's all he's ever going to shoot at max would be like 25. Yeah, he's beautifully efficient, and I don't think he'll ever want to take that away from him. I think he would rather score 30, like 27 to 30 a night on 15 shots every single day and be like, I'm perfect. I'm literally the best player.
That's what he said on Bill's podcast. Bill Simmons' podcast. He said that it's more important to him to be a consistent every single night. Know I'm going to get buckets rather than be one of those players who can drop 60 but then goes and hits like 20, 21. He'd rather score like between 28 and 32 points a night, and you know what you're going to get, and that's amazing.
That's why it doesn't matter who his teammates are. Like, it could have been Westbrook. It could have been 4 Westbrooks and a Durant. Like, he's still going to do exactly what Durant does, no matter what happens.
So I guess then that's my answer is no, it doesn't take away from the fact that he had Westbrook and the Curry year was like the easiest.
He should have been in the finals. That team should have won the finals.
They should have won.
They should have beat the Warriors, and then they could have just cruised through the freaking cap.
They blew a 3-1 lead.
They did. And the whole history of the league is completely different.
They did. And
if they don't lose, he doesn't go to the Warriors. Who knows if he stays with the Thunder, or maybe he goes to. I know that Boston was another big team that was supposedly supposed to get him.
We all heard the Bill Simmons podcast. Yeah. Durant was never going to Boston.
I mean, the thing, like, he's just such a good basketball player that I think it's more of like how impressive that Thunder's like organization is that they keep finding these players, or fortunately getting up to the 4th pick, the 5th pick, the 2nd pick, but they're finding these diamonds in the rough. Like, who would have thought Ibaka gets a ring before Westbrook and Harden?
Yep.
Was Ibaka really the best player? He's the champion, unlike these other 2 MVP bozos. I don't take away his scoring. I think his scoring is like the fact that he is that efficient and he's that good day in, day out. Like, do you need the guy to get 60 and then 15 and it all bounces out to what Durant's doing? No, he's just, he hit that 3 like at that Knicks game. He hit that 3 and he just like kind of fell back and it was just like, it was so smooth.
It's too easy for him. Like, that's the thing. Like, he wakes up, he does his job, and he's done. He's just like
the opposite of Kyrie. It blows my mind that they're such good friends, because
he's not the opposite completely. Like Kyrie left LeBron after what? Barely lose. Did they win, or was that the year they lost and he dipped out?
They lost.
No, they won. They won? But he wanted out anyways. He had talked about
leaving. He dipped out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Durant left the Warriors for God knows reason.
And as the person who just loves defense, and other than you two assholes who just hate defense and everything else, Durant's defense is, I think it's getting more like the proper evaluation now, but he plays super good defense, and he's so tall and everything that he can really play through 3 through 5 on defense.
He's a lengthy mo.
I think that he's probably the best defender now that the Nets have. Because like if you go through the roster, like the starting 5, Kyrie's not good on defense. I don't care that James Harden is a chunky boy and can stop
Kyrie, did you see him defending Giannis in that playoff series?
Oh yeah, that was great.
Giannis couldn't get nothing on him.
So you have Kyrie, who's not a good defender. You have James Harden, who is a good post defender, but that's because he's a chunky boy. And you have Joe Harris, who's not a good defender. And then if they play Jeff Green, like starting lineup, he's like a decent defender, but he's nothing spectacular. Or if they play DeAndre Jordan, who allows like 65% from the field, like within 3 feet, and gets blocks. So Kevin Durant, I think, is by far their best defender, which is kind of crazy that he's the best scorer easily, and he's going to be the best defender.
I wouldn't argue that. I would just say more like the league is so like switchy now that do you need every person to be a great defender, or everyone to just be decent enough that you can outscore them?
You don't need individual defenders. Every team plays zone, right? This year, every team plays zone. There aren't one-on-ones happening. Like, everyone's just collapsing on the shooter. Everyone is double teaming after drives. You don't need individial defenders to be great. All right? You need average defenders.
Don't tell that to the Jazz owner.
But it's insane that anyone would pay Rudy Gobert that much money. It's insanity.
If you switch, though, I mean, the whole point, like, what the Cavs did to the Warriors when they won was they were putting Steph in pick and roll so he would switch on to LeBron and stuff. Like, teams go and pick out on the worst defender. Like, individual
that can't happen anymore in this league. They're playing zone. They're playing zone.
They do not play zone.
They what? You're not watching enough basketball, my guy. You're not watching enough basketball, my guy. I watched the Heat game. I watched the first half before
Eric Spoelstra plays 2-3 zone. He played it last
year. The Sixers were playing zone today, my guy. And the Sixers were down by 9 points at one time. This elite team of individual defenders were losing to. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at the camera. I mean, look at the camera. Don't look at your computer. Tell me who the starting 5 or the Heat were today. And then tell me why the Heat were winning at any point with the elite defenders that are on Philly. Why could they even score?
3 points. 3-pointers is why.
Well, why aren't these elite defenders guarding the 3? What's wrong with them? Why can't they isolate themselves onto the offensive player and guard him? Why is Thibault? They're up 30. They're up 20 right now. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. In the first quarter, like, they shouldn't be scoring. The Heat shouldn't have over 100 points right now. Like,
Gabe Vincent.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows who these people are. But the Heat are going to score like 110 points this game. There's no reason. You have Dwight, you have Thibault.
Did you just say? Did you just seriously name Dwight as the number 1 person?
I'm just listing defenders. You got Embiid. You got Simmons out there. You have a team of freaking defenders, and they're giving up points to G League guys. It doesn't matter.
So to go with that is why, like, I know you two are super hyped about the Nets and everything. I think the 76ers are better.
They're not even close.
They can't
close. They're not.
They can't get enough points against the Nets.
I think in a 7-game series, the 76ers won.
So,
ooh, all right, $50. Let's go, baby.
All right, $50 if they meet in the playoffs.
$50. All
right.
Easy money.
When has this duo? When has the duo of Simmons and Embiid worked outside of the year that Jimmy Butler had to carry them to the Eastern Conference Finals?
Never.
There hasn't.
Looks really good this year.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Watch. Embiid doesn't look. It's really horrible to watch. He's not playing anybody good. He hasn't played a single competitive team.
That's not his fault. He's beating up.
He hasn't proved anything. He's beating up on G League centers.
He didn't beat up tonight. A Coral.
What?
Precious baby.
What did Embiid do tonight?
So that's
in a 20-point blowout.
So, G League centers. Who's going to guard Embiid on the Nets?
DeAndre Jordan at least will be there. They'll have an actual NBA body guarding Embiid.
63% within 4 feet.
Let's see if Embiid can actually do it. Let's see it. I want to see it.
I want
to see Embiid do well in the playoffs because he literally chokes every year in the playoffs.
One thing, and then we're gonna go back to the trade. We're talking about the Sixers. Joel Embiid just loves to be outside on the 3-point line. He doesn't. Really
let's just have Embiid jack threes all day. He's thinking he's Jokic.
We haven't talked about the best player in this entire trade yet. It's Kurucs.
You can't even say his
name.
Let's talk about the Houston Rockets a little bit, okay? They got Victor Oladipo, so the Nets sent Caris LeVert. The Rockets got on the phone. They said, "Hey Pacers, we see you're gonna lose that Oladipo guy. You want this Caris LeVert guy because we want the redemption team here. We got a new coach, new environment. So they got Oladipo. They got my guy Exum, who's out for like 2 months. They got all these picks.
Or Exum.
Yeah.
Or Exum.
Just so much promise and just can never stay healthy.
I don't know if he had promise. I just like the word that he called them like joggers or something. So, John Wall, who is the 6th best point guard in the league, according to Dave. Victor Oladipo, Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker, and Christian Wood. PJ Tucker is getting traded before the deadline. It's happening.
Yep.
Yeah.
Easily.
I saw the report today that the Celtics are like the big team that wants to get him, which would make like 100% so much sense.
So would you do Pritchard for PJ Tucker and 8 first-round picks?
8 first-round picks.
Pritchard. I mean, Pritchard's worth 8 first-round picks. What are you talking about?
But you also get PJ Tucker as cap filler. No.
Cap filler.
I kind of like this team. It's kind of a fun little like league pass team because there's no more the Harden ISO ball. Just another intriguing thing. Because I love all.
It'll be great if they're all healthy. If they are all healthy going into, I think they'll have all the time in the world, right? Like if there's ever a timeline that'll take for them to get back to like 85% of what they used to be, like this COVID time has to be perfect, right? Because they're basically season's a wash, so it's just warm-ups. You're just practicing scrimmaging for an entire year.
Like 800 fans, 1,000 fans. You're like, yeah, come on in, hang out,
whatever. We're just scrimmaging other teams right now for an entire year until COVID's over, and then we can get Oladipo, John Wall, and I'm pretty sure Boogie is really cheap. Like I think he signed like a 2-year deal, basically near vet min. So like, I don't know. You may be able to sign Oladipo pretty cheap, depending.
The rumors are still that he wants to go to Miami.
Yeah.
I don't know if Miami would want him. I don't know. Like if I was Miami, the only reason I would want him is if this season he proved he was like 85% of what he was, and he didn't have to sit out for injuries, like major injuries.
Because Miami kind of has that issue right now with Jimmy Butler, but I don't know how much it is of like this season's kind of a wash. So Jimmy Butler, you stay healthy.
Well, that's what the Heat are doing for sure.
Have Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson develop more, and then next year you have all this cap space and get like an Oladipo, a big man to go with Bam.
You talk about a season just to take off. The Miami Heat just went to the finals.
They're taking off this season.
They don't have to repeat that. They don't have to do anything. That's like here's glory. It's like how the Raptors won the finals and now they're the Raptors who are just losing by 30 to. Oh no, wait.
They're losing.
No, they're playing the Hornets. They're up 5. We're hoping. I'm gambling on it. Don't worry, guys.
We're all geniuses though, and smash the under for the Raptors.
What? Wait, did they win by 17?
Didn't cover the spread. Ugh. But Lucas did it. Lucas did an 18 plus.
No,
he's so dumb. You gotta stop doing that.
I did. They won by 17.
It's that backdoor cover. The Nuggets did it to me the other day. The Bucks did it to me.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I have 18.5.
It's 18.5.
And they won by 17.
18.5. It's so dumb. I'm over it. I keep telling myself to stop gambling on basketball.
If I think they're gonna win by like 21 plus, I should just do 10. Like minus, like just get to double digit wins, because it's always that like 13 to 20 range. Always is.
What are we doing? Stonks? Get out of here.
Stonks. Oh, I love my stonks.
But the Rockets though, I love that team of John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Victor Oladipo now. Like, I don't know if they'll make the playoffs, but it's definitely going to be a fun run. And the only thing, like, I am sad that James Harden was traded only because I wanted to see DeMarcus Cousins beat the living shit out of him. Because he is a big man who has proven over and over again that if you try to, like, push him around and stuff, he's just a brick wall. And he was surely pissed off in that press conference.
I mean, he sent that forearm into LeBron's head, and I think LeBron went into like the shadow realm and never came back.
Why?
Shadow realm.
Do you enjoy arguing with me?
That man's big. I've just agreed with you. He's
a
big dude.
It was a
he's
flop by LeBron, but
he's got strong arms.
He is definitely like DeMarcus Cousins is definitely one player who I would not want to just pop up and be super pissed at me or something like that.
Because I will say probably like 75 to 80% of the NBA, I would not want to pop up on me and try to get in a fight with me. I'd be
That's very true.
Oh, we're losing Lucas now. Bye. Oh. Yeah, I'm the only one who get to leave to go get alcohol or go to the bathroom, you know?
But yeah, I would say that the Rock. Now. What does he have for food? What does he have?
Whatever. What are you saying? What are you saying about the Rockets? It's the NBA podcast.
All right,
I don't care about this kid.
I'm sorry. No, they're just gonna be super fun, and I do hope that everyone stays healthy. Because if John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins can stay healthy, it'll be so much fun to watch.
I want Boogie to stop shooting so many threes and kind of get down low and just make the center position fun again. You know? All right.
Yeah, they got Christian Wood though.
Yeah, Christian Wood's. Yeah, but he's actually good at shooting threes, unlike Boogie. He's just sneaky. Let's move on to Exum and Kurucs. I'm gonna keep saying his name. I can't.
We were hyping up Christian Wood for a while.
Yeah.
Like before the season started.
Yeah.
I was buying stock on Christian Wood.
I love him. He's gonna win MIP. It's just now it's just
that's something that needs to happen. Somehow it needs to happen. People need to create a stock market for players. Dinwiddie was right all along.
Get out of here, Dinwiddie.
Dinwiddie was so right. That's all I want. I want to buy stock on players' contracts.
Fine.
Julius Randle is definitely not in that most improved.
You were so upset for me saying that, and then what happens? They went 0-4, and it just like, nope, there it is. There's
wait.
The
did Julius? Did he fall off a cliff?
No,
the Knicks are back to being the Knicks.
Stink. So they're just like
the Knicks. Yeah, they just suck.
Lucas, would you buy stock in this next player, Caris LeVert, on the Indiana Pacers, going there with a 2023 second-round pick from Houston?
Okay, I would buy stock in him. No, I wouldn't. I take it back. I wouldn't buy stock in him only because if you had to think about the stock market, the hype already happened during the bubble. People bought so much stock during the bubble. The price is already way too high. I could not buy any more stock because it'd be like $1 billion at this point. But him on the Pacers is freaking cool because I want to say they swapped an injured, who knows, Oladipo with a healthy with a healthy Oladipo that doesn't play nearly as good D. I mean, I'm pretty sure healthy Oladipo first year on the Pacers was all defensive team.
Yeah, he was really good.
LeVert's an average defender, which is fine. You don't have to be a stellar defender in the league to be successful, as we know. All right, teams are very successful with average defenders. Look at Tony Parker. He was a very below average defender. Anyway,
they had Tim Duncan behind him, but who was one of the best defenders.
So are you telling me that big man defense is more important than wing defense? Because that's what I'm hearing.
And they have Bruce Bowen, who was a very good defender, and Kawhi
Bruce
Leonard.
Bowen. How far back are you going? How far back are you
Spurs dynasty?
We're millennials.
He was part of the Spurs dynasty. What are you talking about?
He wasn't what? The best Spurs team we watched was against the Heatles.
Yeah. Okay, so Kawhi Leonard. There you go. You want me to switch?
He had one job. Play defense. Good job. Tony Parker had to carry the team. Ginobili.
65%.
Are you drunk?
I'm gonna get Ginobili tattooed right on my ass. He's so much better.
He might be. Oh my god, what did Margie just bring you?
Yeah, seriously.
Actually, I can show you what she brought me.
Show the fans
she brought me
on camera.
jalapeno poppers, bacon wrapped jalapeno poppers, fantastic. I haven't had one yet, but I imagine they're fantastic.
You don't want to eat on cam.
No, you don't want to see that.
No, I don't.
That's a private thing. I have to eat alone.
Okay. Malcolm Brogdon. I had to look up this roster. I don't even know who they're.
It's a fun squad.
It's
like
so
much fun
because you can like put some players in, take some players out. You got the holidays. Like, it's. I love it. So you got Brogdon.
You know what kind of team it would be?
LeVert, Holiday.
If you were playing 2K and you had to do one of those 2K drafts that we used to do, and you traded your first in the draft for like a second and a third, and all you were able to do was draft like B range players.
Yeah.
That's this entire team, except for Sabonis, who is literally the greatest player that no casual fan knows about. Nope. And it's amazing.
This team is like fun to watch, and I was so harsh on them because they hurt my feelings last year because I was so high on them. Because they just were fine still. Like, I was.
That's the Pacers though. They're always like,
but
they're never like insanely amazing, and they're never insanely bad. They are either fine or really good.
They're a team that should have mortgaged their future for like a James Harden type situation. Like, if you could have done that exact trade, you actually could. You could have mortgaged the Pacers' future plus Oladipo for James Harden. You just switch Oladipo and James Harden on this Pacers team. They're a championship team easily, like without a doubt.
But they would never do that though because they don't go over the cap.
It's a little bit warmer in Indiana than it is in Toronto. If they had gotten Kawhi Leonard,
they should have. They should have made. They should have pulled the trigger.
They're a year too early for that, but I like this team. I like this team a lot more now. They're locked in with this Brogdon, LeVert, Sabonis, and Turner. I think they're locked in. Turner could be, but he's finally showing that he could be Turner. The guy.
Well, he's showing that he's like one of the front runners for Defensive Player of the Year. He is so good. Imagine if you could have gotten him
for Gordon Hayward.
For Hayward.
Yeah.
I don't understand why. You know why they probably didn't was because Ainge knew that they had Tristan Thompson for cheap on the back burner, right? And
I'd rather have
but I don't know why they just didn't do it. Has Turner been paid yet?
He does have an extension, but the extension's very friendly. It's not insane.
You know
it's
why?
The Indiana special.
Because Ainge is honestly, he's just losing it. I don't know if he's actually a great GM. I think he pulled off one trade.
Yeah.
And then like he was there for the Kyrie situation, which was messed. Like, that was not great. That didn't work out.
And hell, the I don't know what the Rockets GM name is, but the Rockets GM could be the same way as Ainge because it's a very similar trade with the same exact team. They traded Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett for a shit ton of picks. That didn't work out. And then the Celtics then got all these young players with extremely good picks. Like, worst case scenario, Harden and Kyrie I have way more faith in Harden, even though I do not like him. But say like KD goes and gets hurt again with his Achilles. Kyrie goes MIA, and then in 2 years, the Nets are horrible, and then the Rockets GM looks like a genius with getting all these picks.
So
I think you're spot on because he's going to look like a genius. They can opt out in 2 years. Like, this is only a 2-year window for the Nets. Because after that, there's no way in hell those three stay together. I mean, I think Durant and Harden could. I don't think the trio is going to be there for 2+ years. You know,
Miles Turner gets paid $17.5 million for the next 3 seasons. He's 24 years old. The only thing I had to argue with this, so the entire time, all everyone said was, "Oh my God, Caris LeVert, Jarrett Allen, Taurean Prince aren't equal to James Harden." Is Oladipo, Kurucs, and Exum and 8 picks equal to these guys? I guess so. The picks are the big thing, obviously, but the players, there's no perennial superstar player there. Like,
I get what you're saying.
But that was the thing. That's all people talked about was there. You need a player in return for James Harden. These 8 draft picks could just be. They're unprotected. Who knows if the Nets are good for the next decade and these all turn into 22s?
No way they're going to be good for another decade.
But you don't know.
I mean, it's just. But if you look at all the super teams though, they aren't though. The Heat went and had that huge when LeBron left, D Wade went to the Bulls, but they had that one season where they were good, and then they paid all those players, and then they were bad for a couple of years until they got Jimmy Butler. The Cavs
they were decent though. They were like a swindling 8 to 10 seed. Like you're not getting a Zion, you're not getting Luka Doncic if that situation happens. Like that's the thing. That was the whole argument. That was the whole argument for Ben Simmons and why Caris LeVert, Jarrett Allen, Taurean Prince. You need these guys. At least these guys are something, and they didn't get a single one of them. I don't know how the.
I want to play devil's advocate. Only because if they had traded for those guys, they could have got LeVert. I feel that they could have gotten those players back. Like easily, they could have gotten those players back. They didn't have to involve other teams.
Yeah.
But the reason they did that was for cap purposes. Like you would be stuck with LeVert's 17 a year, which is a great contract, but they don't want that. Like they'd be stuck with having to make the decision to pay Jarrett Allen when they don't want to do that. And they would be stuck with whoever else and not want to really have to deal with them. I think the thing is now they have John Wall, who they love. They have a really, 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 really cheap Boogie, who could be good, but he's coming off the bench right now.
They have Oladipo, who was just for 1 year, and then who knows? Then you have the power as the GM to then go and make the extension. You're not forced into a 4-year deal.
I will say though, it's not a great trade. Like it's not the Paul George trade, which is crazy to me. Like they got such a haul for Paul George, and I think that's how you have to compare this trade. Yeah. So it is super disappointing they don't get someone like Simmons, or the Lakers trade. But I guess I don't know the other team. Like no other team had an AD scenario, right? Like, or the Lakers scenario where they had a slew of great young talent that they could just dangle, right? I don't know if any other team has that.
You know what makes me think of? There's 3 players out there because the Nets have 3 open slots for the mid-level, a disability player exception, and a vet min. There's 3 players they're getting. They know there's 3 players out there that they can sign and pick up in 2 months. Because why couldn't they have gotten any of these guys back? Or even you know what I mean? Like it just isn't adding up there. And I think there's something more to be kicked under the rug. One of these guys' buddy is coming to play with them again. It's the same thing.
Play with the Nets?
The Nets, yeah. Someone's coming. Someone
Who?
we're not. I don't know. Someone we're not thinking of. Someone's one of their friends who's like a vet man who's just gonna come play.
I agree. They have the Jeff Green. Jeff Green was their boy. DeAndre Jordan's their boy. It's got to be.
There's
it's got to be someone that's been bouncing around.
Because otherwise, it's the Nets got their guy. The Rockets have a thought process, I guess to say. Because even for the Rockets, if you know you're gonna move on from Tucker, why wouldn't you want Taurean Prince?
I don't know if he's very good. I don't know why.
At least he's a player. He can shoot threes. Yeah. He could develop into this. You have this. I think I've gone so much back on the back when we were younger, and I was my team sucked, and then we finally cashed everything in. But it's the draft prospects is we got D'Lo. He's a point guard. You know what I mean? He can score buckets. Lonzo Ball can't hit a 3 to save his life, and Ingram is a good player on another team, obviously, but it's lucky. Whereas if right now you're trying to win some games, I guess it's different because they don't have to sell tickets. They don't have to get people into the arena. That's why it's different.
Or are you saying that I'm kind of confused because are you saying that the Rockets got a bad deal? for Harden?
I don't think it's the deal that could have been out there. Like, the draft picks are great in theory. We have to wait and see. It's like, it came up, the Miami pick that the Suns traded. And then that Miami pick that just kept being, like, such a great pick. Like, they got Mikal Bridges for that Miami pick. And Zaire Smith. Like, you'd rather have Mikal Bridges.
Oh, yes.
So, like, at some point, these, like, look at the Celtics with the Grizzlies pick. It's like, this is going to be a third. This is going to be a top 3 pick. Like, no, is it?
And then they don't see John Moran and Jaren Jackson Jr. leading them to being the 9th seed.
And, like,
which, I mean, if it was a full season, who knows? They could have been the 8th seed if it wasn't a weird year.
Should be back tomorrow. Well, who knows? That's my only thing. That's me being a pessimist. They didn't get the player. And I don't know if there wasn't players out there for it. There wasn't the loaded Lakers squad of young talent that's like, here you go. Like, if the Suns
they also
sucked again this year, and they were like, he was like, I'll trade you Rubio, everything with keep Booker, but you get all these other players.
They also wanted, like, crazy things from teams. Like, they wanted from the Heat picks, Duncan Robinson, and Tyler Hero. And then, like, from the Celtics, they wanted Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and picks. Like, that's an insane amount of things. Which I wonder if they cut it back with, like say the Heat. If they're like, no, we want Tyler Hero and picks. Would that have been a better trade, you think?
No, because, I mean, I guess maybe you'd have to get, like, Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. But
I wouldn't do that if I was the Heat, though.
That's like James Harden
for 2 years.
Where
you could have Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson for.
So you'd have James Harden, Jimmy Butler, and Bam. Hell yeah!
Maybe they viewed it as James Harden this season being a wash, and then thinking we would only have 1 year of James Harden.
And
I mean, that's the only way I can think about it, because
Florida,
Pat Riley's though, like, super ballsy, where he thinks that he can get, like, the super free agents and stuff. So I think that he wanted to keep his money for next year and get someone big and stuff.
I don't think there's anyone big, though. I guess there could be. There's the potential.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's like,
I think it's a fine deal for the Rockets.
Wow.
I don't think it's.
It didn't wow. There wasn't a Shea in the deal. That's like.
Yeah, there's no. If they had a young,
there's no
promising guy.
You have.
I didn't even love Shea at the time, but it was like you basically got the 10th pick in the current draft. So if they had gotten, like,
it's like you get an expiring. And
Halliburton. If he was going to the Kings and it was 6 picks, five picks, swaps in there, whatever, and you got Halliburton, that would be a PG trade, right? Like, that would be worth it.
Yeah.
But it does feel weird that they didn't get a young asset back. But that might be their mindset. Like, that's the GM and the owner's mindset, is we want just cap space. Like, we want a decade of picks, and we want $40 million. That's what they're trading.
Yeah.
Which is nuts to me.
I think that the LeVert for Oladipo is, like, a win-win for both teams, though.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so, like, say if Oladipo was on the Nets, and Oladipo and 4 picks and 4 pick swaps was traded for James Harden. I mean, because that's pretty much what it was.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not, like, knowing, like, if Oladipo re-signs and they go and they're, like, a playoff team, it works. The trade works. Like, I'm wrong, but it didn't have that, like, player that was like, oh yeah, like the AD trade went through and I was like, Lonzo, Ingram, Hart, okay,
all of our picks,
okay, like,
yeah, but
and we won, so it's worth it. It was worth everything. And AD re-signed.
So going back to the AD trade, though, which one of those players is actually, like, a good player, though, that was traded?
Ingram.
Just Ingram. So that's just one player, though, because, like, so you say Lonzo. I don't think Lonzo's gonna re-sign there.
I think he
Like,
well, no, I think he was gambling on himself, and he can't hit a three. I think every other facet of his game, his passing, his defense, like his rebounding and stuff, is good. He just can't.
no, I think so too. Yeah,
He just does.
but I think
He
like
drives me insane. But good.
Um, but like, I mean, if you think about it though, like, yeah, so there was all these young players and stuff, but really the only young player that is like super promising and that the Pelicans have re-signed and want to be part of their future is really only Ingram.
But then
Like, I don't see Josh
But they also
Josh
have all
Hart.
picks.
No, I know that though, but I'm saying though, like that's similar to the or the Harden trade though, where it's a shit ton of picks and one player.
I mean,
But
but the thing with Lonzo is Ingram's an all-star, but at the time, Lonzo was still like a question mark, right? Like you still had, where is this guy's range going to be? Like we don't really know what his floor and ceiling really looked like at the time. So there was still potential for like all-star. Right now we see Lonzo and we don't see any sort of all-star potential in him.
Role player,
But
fringe
it's like even though those guys aren't cornerstones for a franchise, they're assets. So like the Rockets accepted basically just draft picks and then one additional asset, which was the freed up cap space, whereas the Lakers got, or the Pelicans got,
a roster.
they got cap space from AD, not as much. They got cap space, they got an endless amount of picks, and then they got 3 assets. Like you could, in theory, swap Hart for something. It wouldn't be great, but you could swap him, or you could just keep him because he'll be a good bench player. Lonzo, you could swap. Ingram, you keep forever. But
I wonder why the Rockets didn't want Jarrett Allen. I wonder if it was just a cap space thing, because like that's the player that I would want to go and like have, because like he's on pace to be a defensive player of the year one year. Like this year he wasn't playing enough minutes to get that. But like I could see in 2 years him being a defensive, like in the race for defensive player of the year. So I'm very like I guess in that aspect, I don't understand why the Rockets didn't want him as well, and instead the Cavs got involved.
I don't know, but the Cavs made their best trade that they've made in what, like the entirety of like a decade, right? Like it's the best trade that they've made. And it's weird because this actually hurts Drummond so much.
Yeah.
And weird side topic tangent for about 30 seconds is Drummond's career is going to be like top 5 greatest rebounder of all time. And yet they just traded a dude who's like 22, 23, who only played about 19 minutes a game, right? Like he only ranges between 19 and 25 minutes a game because of DeAndre Jordan. And they just decided his replacement. Like they just chose the greatest, one of the greatest rebounders, and he's a very good passing big. He drops like 20 and 20. He could drop 20 and 20 any night, and they just chose a dude that will get you 10 and 10 every night. I think that's really telling for DeAndre Jordan's career going forward.
Andre Drummond.
Andre Drummond. What did I say?
DeAndre Jordan. But yeah. I love though, like, so like if I'm trying to like think of like how we're talking about like all of it, like, so we talked about like the Nets, we talked about like what the Rockets got, and then like what the Cavs did was the Cavs were like, all right, we love Sexton and Garland as our front court.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We want, and
Sexton
then we're gonna have backcourt. I always do that.
Same.
It is weird. It's opposite, right?
Right. So I feel like the addition of Jarrett Allen, who is near the same age as those two players, like going forward, I love that trio to build around. Because
I agree.
And it's crazy that like they kind of just slid in there like, hey, we'll take Jarrett Allen from you. Who did they give up exactly? It was just like nothing, right?
Exum.
Dante Exum. They gave up the first. They gave up the Milwaukee first.
Yep.
Yeah. But
why?
But I mean, Milwaukee first though, which I mean, Milwaukee, Giannis is on the Supermax.
Yeah.
So they're gonna be good for many years. So you gave up like a late 20th pick.
Yeah.
So the thing is, now it's kind of like wrapping up, is like the fact that the Cavs are selling. They have every big you could think of. Kevin Love, They have Drummond. They have Larry Nance, Allen, and now Taurean Prince. Like, who else? They have Sexland on their team, and all these bigs, and Osman. Never forget Chetty.
So which bigs are on the trade block?
I think Drummond is, and
But who would want Drummond though?
I think Kevin Love might be a buyout.
He needs to.
I think
he might actually friggin' retire, man. Like, he hasn't shown at the time. I'll defend myself by saying that it was a good signing or whatever. But he didn't do anything after that. Like, he didn't even attempt to be Kevin Love. He went from being like LeBron's third dude and then became a worse product of that. It made no sense. He didn't even revert back to Minnesota Kevin Love at any point.
He should, that's what he should have been. He should have been
like Minnesota Kevin Love. Yeah. And he didn't become it.
No, instead he just got much worse, I feel.
And I don't know who wants that. Like, who wants a below average stretch four at this point? Like, he's not. He should have developed into a significantly better Bertans. Like, he should have been able to be like, I'm gonna shoot 40% from three, and then if I can't get the open three, I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna do the pick and roll. I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna get in the post, and I'm gonna old school back my ass up in this, and I want to get a bucket. Like, that was Kevin Love in Minnesota, and he became nothing. So it's like it's almost like an empty. The Cavs just lost $28 million every single year. He's not producing.
So I guess the argument would be that it's the same thing when people are just like unhappy in their situation. Like, he doesn't care, and he kept getting like random, like, he'd break his hand and he's just out 3 months, and the Cavs are like, hey, just like chill. Like, we don't need you back. We wanna be bad. We're tanking. So, but like, his passing's elite, his shooting is good, his his knowledge of the game is awesome. So that's what you're adding. Like, for how long have we talked about Kevin Love to Portland or something? If you could get the scenario where he gets bought out, or something crazy happens, like they're just finally cashing in a chip. I mean, he could help a team out. I don't know what a buyout would look like.
You know what it would look like? It would have looked like the Hornets if the Hornets swapped Batum's $26 million contract expiring for Kevin Love, 2 years of Kevin Love, 3 years of Kevin Love. I can't remember what's left. I think it's 2.
I just looked it up because I didn't know that either. He has 2 more years, and then
2 more years on UFA. See, that would have been perfect, I think, because then they still would have had enough cap to get Hayward. So you'd have Kevin Love, Hayward, and then whatever.
They had a cut.
Oh, they had to cut someone. Well,
they had to cut Batum.
I guess, but that's the only way you can swap Kevin Love to a team is if you have an albatross contract, right? And I don't know how many teams have those anymore. Like, I would have said if Presti was looking for more picks, he would swap an expiring Steven Adams, $22 million Steven Adams for Kevin Love, take a pick back, do that in a heartbeat. But nobody even wanted that. Even the most draft hunting GMs don't want Kevin Love. So he may be untradeable.
Yeah, so I mean, he might just be stuck there. I think the most tradable piece is Larry Nance.
I think they're keeping him too.
I think they're keeping him.
But at some point, you have to move on from something. You can't have 5 big.
I think it's McGee.
What if you just say this is a wash year, and then Drummond is next year? Because is gone.
I guess the argument would be you had to get some sort of value for Drummond. You'd want to get something.
That I would agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
play devil's advocate. They didn't trade anything for Drummond.
Yeah.
No.
Like, the Pistons gave Drummond away for free. That trade shocked my life. Like, I always thought Drummond was like good player, not great player, good player, bad situation. Yeah. And then he got traded to a worse situation for significantly worse value than I thought he was. So, like, nobody must think he's good. Like, GMs must think he's not worth anything and he just gobbles rebounds. I don't know. I don't know how you value Drummond anymore because I really liked him, but I just thought he was in a bad situation.
Yeah. I mean, but in like a contender though, like what contender could take on that money? Like,
that's another thing.
The Celtics need a big man. But
they don't have them. They can't match unless it's Kemba. Unless they're like, screw it, we're just gonna do Smart, Brown, and Tatum, and we'll swap Kemba, an injured Kemba, for Drummond.
Or
but
what
like
Kemba for Kevin Love.
You know what? They actually at this point just need to swap Kemba for a body. And it could, in an expiring body like Drummond, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but they already have Tristan Thompson and Tice, and I'm pretty sure they probably play their roles a hell of a lot better.
And Time Lord, like every 3 games, looks amazing. Then he looks really bad.
That's okay. I guess that's what you want in a second round pick, right? So every third game they show something for a couple minutes. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so all right. So if you guys had to grade like each team, what would you grade it? So like the Nets, starting off with the Nets.
Good question.
I'd
go. Nets easy A. Go.
I say before we see it, A, but it's like A minus. Like I'm more lower than you guys are on it, but it might just be one of those things like they just have so much star power that like us 3 could go and be playing off the bench and they would still win.
You know what? You're the kind of teacher that would give a kid, be like, oh, I love this kid. He's a great student. And come into an exam, there's an essay. And like, I'm so excited to read this kid's paper. He's so smart. And then he hands in a paper that's objectively better than everyone, but he can't spell for shit. And you're like, you know what? He's getting a C minus. And then everyone's like, what the hell? The paper's great, but he can't spell a few words. You're that kind of teacher.
I'm gonna honestly, I'm high on this trade for as much as I talked about the Rockets. I'd probably give the Rockets like a B plus, just because they didn't get like a player now. But if it fits into their story, that's fine. I give the Cavs a B, because I think there's
really.
I think it's
what?
I think it's good, but it just like, I mean, no, that's low. I'll give them a B plus.
So what's the asset they gave up? Like
Cavs.
I would say A plus too.
I wouldn't say. You guys just make me go up a little bit.
I guess the problem is, what's the asset? Like the asset they gave up was. I guess
they didn't give up anything. Now they're just in a weird spot. Like if they can't move on from Kevin Love, then they're just gonna be paying like the tax, because you're gonna extend Jarrett Allen, and then like.
Well, I think they lose Drummond.
They lose Drummond.
I think they're just going to eat Kevin Love for 2 years. And well, actually, only probably 1 year, because in the second year they can probably trade him because he's an expiring contract. So
I hope.
I mean, if he shows some like life, I guess.
If they had gotten LeVert, I would have given him an A. I think like if they didn't have a center, like right now, I know Drummond's probably not the center of their future, but like
it is weird. It's just
a weird thing. I know something's gonna happen, and I might retroactively go back and be like, "Yep, smartest trade to the left. This is why I'm not a GM." But good for them to sneak in there. They just walked in.
I guess the only caveat to this trade not being an A plus to me, I guess I'd have to agree. It'd be retroactively not thinking that the pick would be worth it. So they gave up that Milwaukee pick. And everyone's goo goo gaga about that one pick that the Suns traded to Philly for Mikal Bridges, like you said.
Yeah.
But if finally this pick became the draft with the double draft, and you had, and the draft pool was ridiculous, then I think it would look a little bit worse, right? Because then you'd be thinking like, oh my gosh, there are actually like 4 potential number ones in this draft pick, which means like the rest of the draft is ridiculously deep with good talent.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I think it would be like, maybe you should have kept that pick. But I think the dice rolls, like what you said, like Jarrett Allen could be a potential top 5 defensive big in the league. Mm-hmm. And if he can play like, I don't know, if he's like what he is now and then develops like half of what Rudy Gobert has influence of on the court, like defensively, that would be a great trade, maybe. it all depends on what that draft is, right? Like, I
Mhm.
guess this is one of those pending trades. Like, you got to wait till all the assets have been laid
I
out.
mean,
Yeah, I agree because I say like so for the Cavs I say A+ until we see what it is, and if it's what I think it's going to be, will just be a late first round pick, and like as we know, like most late first round picks are just kind of useless almost. Like
I think that's where I
I
think
think it was a
honestly
great trade.
I think more players are better in the late first rounds now than they are the top 10.
I think people are taking
These
older players
That's
later.
the older
Like,
players.
this is now like the trend, and that's why, successful teams, playoff teams are doing well with these young guys because they're like, oh my God,
I got
we got
23
this
year old.
23-year-old kid from Villanova. He's been
Mhm.
here for 4 years. He's been developing. If like it would literally be if at the time they said it was a really like stretch to take Mikal Bridges at 10. Whenever it was
Yeah.
like 9, 10, or 11, somewhere around there he got
I think
drafted.
it's 10, yeah.
If Mikal was taken like 20th to like the Blazers or something, it'd be ridiculous. It'd be like players like that. You need these veterans that are veterans in college that are great. They know the game. They don't need to actually develop that kind of skill, where to be, how to interact on the court. Like, that's how these teams are being so successful later on in the draft. They take the smart kid, the kid that's
Yeah.
been there forever.
The bro dog,
The Brogue
Yeah.
Dog, that's a good example.
The late
Mhm.
the late second rounders have actually just been like skyrocketing because they're these average. They're like players who are ready to play basketball. There you go. Speaking of second rounders, the Pacers, they got a second rounder, and Caris LeVert. Hey, give him
yeah, A.
I love it. I think it's perfect. I don't know if he's playing tomorrow, but
I hope so.
or tonight rather. They play the Warriors tonight. I'm not quite sure if he's gonna play. I don't think he will, but
It's
I
like
mean, it's crazy that they flipped. Like we all loved Oladipo there in his first year on the Pacers when he like transformed his body and he was going toe to toe with LeBron in Game 7 and stuff. And then like he kind of just like took a dip as he got hurt and
yeah.
like he kind of started like causing drama, which is definitely not Indiana. Like Indiana does not want drama. They want just consistent good players and to be good. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like Oladipo then was like when he went up to teams and were like trade for me, like I'll come get me, stuff like that. He
Never
was
came back.
like more than likely going to walk after this year. So you traded
yeah,
him for a young promising player in LeVert, where you have now LeVert, Sabonis, and Turner, and then you have Brodog as like the older player.
Mhm.
That's a solid team
I
for
agree.
years to come.
I think the big thing will be TJ Warren on this team, and if he can be back by the
Mhm.
second half of the season. I can't remember what his injury is, but I don't think it's season ending. Um, but this team misses something, right? Like, it misses something that the original Pacers team, when we first started watching basketball together,
Yeah.
was this David West, Danny Granger, young Paul
Shooting
George,
guard Pearl George.
Roy Hibbert team. And it's not like the toughness, but it's this veteran consistency that you get a little bit of Brogdon because he's like 28, you get a bit of him, but it's like you don't have the guy yet. And for so long of the Pacers, you had Danny Granger being the guy. And then it turned into Danny Granger got hurt and you have Paul George. And Paul George is going to be the guy. And for an entire playoff series, he went toe to toe with LeBron. And he had Danny Granger as like the third fiddle because he was off and on. This Pacers team is just like overall good, but nobody has the ability to go up that extra level,
You
even
don't
though
think
everyone thought
Sabonis?
it. Sabonis isn't the type of guy. Like, this is the problem. This is the problem that the Sixers have too. They don't have. You need a guard in this league. You need a wing that can do it all.
Mhm.
And that's the problem that the Sixers have had. That's why they'll never be successful. They'll never win a championship with Simmons and Embiid
Hot take.
because their best player throughout that entire tenure was JJ Redick. It always was. He was the only person late in game because 30% of games are close. You have to rely on somebody to be like, I got the ball, I need to score, or I need to facilitate. They don't have that. Like, and the Pacers have 3 guys, right? Now they have LeVert, they've got Brogdon, and they've got TJ Warren, but none of those guys can be like, all right, like, you know what? I'm top 15 tonight. I'm top 10. Like, I can go toe to toe with, hey, LeBron's having an iffy game, but guess what? Like, tonight I'm going off. Like, that first year of Oladipo, like that Pacer series versus Oladipo, like, it was Oladipo versus LeBron. Oladipo almost felt like I should be all NBA. He played like all NBA. He was taking the last shot. He was doing everything, but Oladipo's falling off a cliff. So you need to find a way to get a guy or develop a guy to become a top 10 closing player.
Right.
And right now, like Sabonis is the perfect engine, right? Like he plays that Embiid role where he'll give you his numbers. And if you're playing a middling team or a team that's having an off night, or even a team that's playing well, but he's just going to be perfect. Like he's got that Durant steadiness. He's not going to, his stats aren't going to vary. And even some nights he'll drop 20 and 20, but they don't have that closer. Like you'd almost want a non-drama Kyrie on that team. Like you need a dude.
What about Brodog? You don't think he's it?
I don't think he's a dude. Like there's only so many guys in this league that can be like, I'm taking over. And I don't know, the first 2 people that come to mind are McCollum and Lillard, because they're my favorite duo. But it's like those guys are, either one of them is like, okay, game's on the line, give me the ball, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that team has that, and certainly the Sixers don't have that. I don't know, I have to tie them into it, but
you just love hating on.
They don't have a guy. They have to rely on Maxey and some other guy I've never heard of.
You're forgetting their main guy though on the 36ers. Seth.
Danny Green.
Seth. Yeah, I mean,
but
so
I don't know.
You must be hoping that LeVert can get to that point. Is weird.
Like, I kind of did it. I think that's it. I think that's you're hoping that LeVert can be that guy, or LeVert can be that Oladipo first year, kind of guy.
They don't have an alpha dog. That's maybe the phrase I was thinking of. They don't have an alpha dog. Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to hit on this hour and 15 on just James Harden trade? That was more important than the president getting impeached for the second time.
Kind of was, I mean.
Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, come on. What are we talking about here?
But thank you guys so much for listening to the NBA Nightcap. It was a pleasure having you. Welcome back. Make sure you follow our socials. Going to be right here. Twitter, Nightcap NBA. Instagram, NBA Nightcap. And then if you're watching this, you're on our YouTube. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, follow, whatever the mumbo jumbo is. Hopefully this NBA season kind of gets back more on track with a lack of COVID stuff, but we're happy to have you here, and we're going to power through it. As long as the NBA is going on, we're going on. Thank you so much.